and welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. Last one before Christmas, but not the last one of the year. Quiet times on the Microsoft 365 front. A couple of interesting things to talk about. One less thing than I was going to talk about, which I'm going to come on to in a moment. But yeah, so first of all, let's start with something that isn't really to do with Microsoft 365 development as such. It is to do with Microsoft 365, and it's more of a shout out to those of you who have to deal with documentation or have to deal with user training or anything like that. And it's a good example that I've sort of just noticed this past week of the reminder, if you like, that Microsoft 365 is evergreen, and that means it's always changing. And that can be a struggle. It gives Microsoft a lot of flexibility because it allows them to pivot things. It allows them to readjust and reorganize what they have when something like Copilot comes along. You know, we're seeing that at the moment. They are reorganizing Microsoft 365 very firmly around Copilot. And as a result of that, some things change, and they change quickly. That can be disconcerting for users. It can be annoying if you deliver training, if you have training materials. This is one of those. So there's a feature in the Microsoft 365 app called My Day. Now, I don't know how many people use it. That's kind of irrelevant. It's in there. It's a thing you can do in the Microsoft 365 app. However, it's going away. So let me just show you what that means, and then we'll kind of talk about it. So, yeah, like I say, it's not particularly development, but if you've got users who use this, they're going to be impacted. So this thing over here on the right gives you your day. It's got the calendar. It's got a to-do. Apparently, that's going to go away. The reason for bringing this up at all, so this was a blog post published December the 20th. It's going to go away starting January 25. You've got less than 10 days notice over the Christmas period, over the holiday period. It's effectively zero notice. Now, this is a very small feature. Microsoft may know that no one uses it. However, this is a good example, if you like. It doesn't really matter how many kind of terms and conditions you think you may have around sort of things being there and notice periods and all the rest of it. Microsoft will move your cheese, and that's the deal with Evergreen services. That's kind of what you're paying for. You're paying for that agility to always have the latest features, but it does also mean that stuff can get moved or taken away entirely with very little notice. You know, if you've got users that rely on this feature every day as part of their workflow, they are going to be impacted coming into the office next month. And you don't really have time to do anything about it. Like, you don't have time to address that and tell them where they need to go instead. Presumably, that's going to get replaced by something that is Copilot based and AI based, and that's good. That's forward progress, right? We like that. But it does also, you need to kind of always remember it comes at the cost of something. So a little example I just kind of want to call out there. There was something else, and again, in the same vein, actually, of things changing very quickly, there was something I was going to talk about this week in this update. I had it, in fact, it's already in the show notes. So I'm going to have to take it out because when I came to just check all my notes this morning before I started recording, it turns out that overnight, so from probably in the space of about 12 hours, a feature that was in the roadmap has now disappeared from the roadmap. So I can't talk about it. So I don't even want to tell you what it is because we'll wait until it's there and then we'll talk about it. Obviously, it's not ready. Maybe it was put in as a mistake, so I don't want to talk about it. But it was there. It was definitely there because I've got a URL for it and I've got a number. It just doesn't go anywhere anymore. So another good example. Anyway, things change. And we just have to kind of roll with the punches for the moment, I think. All right, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Azure Communication Services. They've got another good sample around doing AI-powered chat. So again, using Azure Communication Services as a chat interface and syncing it up with an Azure OpenAI backend. Fairly standard. We've talked about this quite a lot previously. I've done talks and demos and there's code samples out about how to do all this stuff already. This is good. I mean, this is interesting. This is good to see these kind of Microsoft provided samples because I think people put a lot of weight behind Microsoft provided code like this. So it's good. It shows how to use chat completions. This is an interesting place. Like, I want to see Azure Communication Services do a bit more with chat and get into this chat workspace because I think it's good to have something to go alongside what the Teams team are doing, what the Copilot people are doing. Again, this is good. I think it's an interesting alternative way of doing it. It works very well with things like, I think, WhatsApp and stuff like that as well, which is predominantly chat-based, so, and also web chat and stuff like that as well. So it's good to see the Azure Communication Services team going in this direction and providing samples to kind of make it easier for developers to get into this space, because chat's a whole thing. Like, Azure Communication Services shouldn't just be about voice and video. Definitely chat is a really important communication medium for customer service and for all sorts of other things as well. And also, I think there's a real value in something like Azure Communication Services owning all of those workloads, so you can seamlessly move on the same platform. You can move from chat to voice to video. I think that's really useful as well. So that's a cool sample. It's good. It's, like I say, it's done nicely. There's a GitHub repository for it, which is nice. Yeah, it's a good example of putting AI into your kind of chat workflow. That's cool. It's all good. Yep. So go check that out if that sounds interesting to you. All right. Finally, I want to rant again. I did a rant at the beginning. Let's do a rant at the end. It's a very ranty episode, and it's not meant to be like that. It's just the way things worked out. I'm sure next year will be better. Let's talk about Copilot branding. And I don't really want to get into all of the details of Copilot branding. Again, not my strong suit, not particularly relevant to developers, who I like to think mostly just ignore this stuff and let it go by, because it doesn't matter that much. And it really doesn't matter to users and to kind of results and things like that. If you're a developer building solutions on this stuff, the thing that annoys me about branding changes is how confusing it is for developers getting into this space, who are trying to understand how it all works and are trying to use existing documentation, existing Stack Overflow posts, existing information on YouTube, but they don't find what they're looking for because all the naming is wrong or is different or is being reused. And that's the stuff that annoys me. But anyway, I'm going to use Mary Jo Foley's post from Directions on Microsoft, because she nicely summarizes all the changes so I don't have to. She goes through all the different name changes that have just happened, what they mean, what's available where things include Copilot, where they say Copilot, but they actually don't include any Copilot, and all the rest of it. A couple of takeaways. Firstly, I get it. I get that naming is important. I get that marketing is important, especially in the AI space, especially at the moment. It's something of an arms race, and there is that kind of mindshare advantage that's needed. I do think, I don't know, like the flip side is that it's confusing, and it's confusing to people either in this world who are just trying to understand it, but it's even more it's even more confusing for those trying to come into this world, like I say, who now all this documentation information is kind of out of date, and it's confusing to know what's what and what isn't. So fine, if it's needed, it's needed. I do think this whole, like, the marketing side of the thing, like, if it's needed, that's great. I just don't want it to impact on the engineering side and like the delivery and the stuff that is really valuable in that. So I think this is just a point in time where I think hopefully everything's been thrown up in the air and it's landed, and now it's going to stay for a bit. And hopefully going into 2025, we can stick with these names that we've got and not change them again. I really hope that's true, but we'll see. Who knows? But we just got to kind of keep up to date with everything that's going on, keep up to date with the name changes, what it means, and just kind of keep finding the value and keep helping those coming into this space as well, where it is kind of confusing. So that's my plan for 2025, is to kind of try and float over or under the naming stuff, and just deal with the bits and bytes that we see in front of us, the APIs, the capabilities, the things you can do. That's the stuff that gets me excited. So that's where I'm going to focus. All right. Have a fantastic Christmas if that's your thing. And I will speak to you again next week.